A quick look at the dailies if you're just joining us. We did this at the top of the hour, but here it is for you this morning. Zuma, man who brought down Mandela's party. South African president has lined up his former wife to succeed him as the masses reject ANC in municipal polls and head to the streets in protest. You have this full coverage on page 10 and 11 of the Daily Nation today. Also, South Africa leader gets their corruption right and little else, least of all is succession. I have my panelists this morning to just weigh in on this, especially with the African leaders. Now, we see Jacob Zuma also is lining up his wife to succeed him. We've known also Gracia, not Gracia, but the wife of Robert Mugabe. He said that Mugabe also will rule for 1 billion years, even beyond the grave as well. In Uganda, we have also the President Yoweri Museveni, who is right now the Minister of Education. What is happening with our leaders in Africa? Dr. Shemachodo, we were to you before we took a short break.
Yeah, Debala, I thought you were going to allow us as well to comment on the independence.
You will, of course. We'll continue the topic, but just weigh in on this briefly before we move on with the dailies.
I think it's important to respect the will of the people, and that applies not only in Kenya, but South Africa, Zimbabwe, and elsewhere. Dr. Dlamini-Zuma is a pretty excellent leader. She did a good job at the AU Commission, at the helm. But her leading South Africa would be another issue. It's really for South Africans to decide, not President Zuma or us. Let them have the right to elect who's going to be their next leader. Imposition of leaders is not right.
All right. Let's hear also from Richard Onyonka joining us this morning.
Thank you. Good morning, Debao. I think the South African case is a very sad case for the simple reason that Zuma took a party, ANC, which is a very popular party in South Africa. It's basically a Mandela party, which had very high standards in terms of democracy, governance, and management of the affairs of state in South Africa. Then Zuma came in with all these corruption scandals, spending about $20 million building his houses, and a lot of other things. According to me, Zuma's situation in South Africa is actually a sad scenario for African leadership, that once again, ANC as a party which used to be emulated, a party which was very strong in Africa, a party which was seen as a Mandela party, is now being seen as actually the party that has destroyed itself within itself. There have been subdivisions within itself, within the ranks of the ANC, especially with the EEC, which is Malema's splinter group, which left the ANC, and the issues which have come up in South Africa, the issue of land distribution, the land tenure system, economic development within the poor neighborhoods in South Africa.
Yes. And
I think for me, Zuma has just been a disappointment in Africa. It's a very, very bad example for African leadership. It's an example that many of us who are in elected offices don't have to emulate, because you have many people in the ANC, when you watch what is happening in South Africa, saying that in fact Zuma should resign, he should step out of the party and maybe let Cyril Ramaphosa take over, because ANC has cannibalized itself internally, and it's purely the responsibility of Zuma, and he has failed as a leader.
But as Africa, aren't we seeing also I should say, the rise of, people who are challenging the conventional politics of the day, right?
Yeah.
With the ANC also being there for the longest time and riding on the issue of apartheid, right? But that seems to be tapering off right now. They don't have anything actually to clamor on and hang on. And so they're losing their credibility, they're losing their state also in South Africa.
That's true. You can't even argue that Zuma stayed too long. I think he was supposed to do 2 terms. He has already done that. The problem with Zuma is really governance. It's just an issue that members of the ANC, members who are in his cabinet, have been involved in corruption scandals. You don't have the ANC articulating and discussing the issues which are affecting South Africans. Many of the cities, Johannesburg, Durban, all the cities in South Africa, the ANC has actually lost the elections at the grassroots level, which means there's a lot of anger and discontent at the grassroots level for the ANC. And for me, there isn't much that Zuma would wait for. I only would like to give a different variation from what my colleague Shamochwaba said.
Yes.
Zuma, the wife of Zuma, who was at the AU,
Yes.
may not actually have been a bad idea to take over from the husband, because professionally and in terms of her engagement, being the head of AU and having served her full term of 7 years, could not have been a bad idea. But it again brings the issue of nepotism in African leadership. Do we have to bring our nephews, do we have to bring our wives and our children into political offices when it comes to these positions which have been bestowed upon us by the public?
A good question.
Yes, I think it's an issue that Zuma should be sensitive about, even when the wife is actually divorced from him.
Right.
Yeah.
And this has been a ticklish issue, especially with the Iala nominations, which has really drawn a lot of lacquer everywhere right now, from Jubilee Front, from NASA, from other parties as well. And we've seen also, to that, we have Okio Mtata, who has moved to court to also tell us or try to push this particular pledge or petition, why the independents also, they have not been considered as nominees of Iala as well. Shabal?
I think it's a good idea for independence. I don't see any good reason why Iala should be the preserve of politicians.
But let's not even go begin with the independence. Can we also talk about the nepotism that has been rife? We've seen Kalonzo fronting his son. We had also other relatives being fronted for Iala nominations.
I think that's absolutely wrong. People should be chosen purely on merit and not on personal relationships. In the case of Zuma, I find it a bit unfortunate that Dr. Zuma, who in her own right is a very capable and professional woman, that she may end up being collateral damage because of her ex-husband.
Yes.
But coming back to Kenya, I think the Iala nomination should be given to people of competence and experience and not necessarily close relatives. I think it's a huge disgrace to even put up people who have absolutely no professional experience and absolutely no political background to go and represent Kenya at the East African Council. I think that's a huge mistake, embarrassing mistake, and I personally think they should withdraw those nominations before being forced to do so.
All right. You talk about example of African leaders. This is Mr. Richard Onyonka. And when you come to Africa, do we have any shining factor as an example of a model that we can actually look up to and say, truly, we have an African statesman right now? Honorable Kibo.
Well, I think Africa is at the crossroads. At independence, all the African leaders were nationalists, and they were actually Pan-Africanists. But immediately they got into the comfort of state machinery, they became now more patriotic, in quotes, and subsequently, when they were threatened, they went back to their tribes. That's the tragedy that we have in Africa. We have so many documents, so many constitutions without constitutionalism, in the sense that, yes, the document is here, but how many of us believe that this constitution should be adhered to, especially when it is at variance with your own position as an individual? That is the tragedy of Africa.
Yes.
And we need to invite ourselves to a situation where we ask, where did the rain start beating us? And it started beating us when we ran away to our own tribal fiefdoms to secure our own security in terms of sticking to power. Here in Kenya, 1969, we remember the oathing exercise. That was really going back. In 1992 and even 97, you remember there was the tribal clashes, which were really not tribal.
Yes.
They were more politically motivated. Why do tribes fight on the evils of elections? And subsequent to that, they just stay together, they intermarry, and do all manner of things that any state should be able to encourage its citizenry to do. Now, when we come to the issue of Zuma, the man and the lady, it is unfortunate the way Mheshimiwa said here, that she might suffer collateral damage, because this lady, even coming to AU, was a safety net for Zuma, the man, not to have opposition from the family, because the two are political entities separate from each other. But now, by endorsing the wife, meant that, you know, there are some people, if they were to endorse you, like in some areas, if Duale was to endorse you, you would actually lose an election, even if you are the most popular candidate. So it is not about family. It is not about what you are considering that somebody is endorsing his wife. These are two political players, equally strong. And Zuma could have been trying to damage this lady by endorsing her so that she becomes damage to goods by association. Otherwise, I look at it as two separate individuals, and I think you in the media need to engage more and to understand Dlamini as an entity equal to the task. Yeah.
So you think there is an ulterior motive with this?
There could be an ulterior motive. You know, if you've been staying with a lady for 40 years or so, and all of a sudden she develops her own political identity, you may want just to tell her you are wrong, and the best way is to do what is best. Knowing that you already damaged goods, then you know we have a saying in the community I come from.
Yes.
That if a skunk passes past you and hits you with a tail, you really have to take a shower. Otherwise, people will run away thinking that you are a skunk, or you are giving a pageant smell. So Zuma, the man, is actually destroying the lady.
Thank you.
I wish he had opposed her to the end.
All right. Thank you very much.